agenda?
Yes, there are. Number 1, add a discussion item, which is item 8.1, Century Manor, 100 West 5th Street, Hamilton. And second change is added from the added general information other business items section, item 11, which is 11.3, request to designate 183, 187, 189, and 195 Houston Street South, 39 Charleston Avenue East under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. And 11.4, which is designation status of 21 Stone Church Road, West Hamilton, which is the Department Stone United Church.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Michael, seconded by Stair. All in favor? Item 2 is our declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest today? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 3 is our approval of the minutes of the previous meeting from October 16th. May I have a motion to approve? That's okay. November 20th.
Apologies.
Question. Just a minute's consent items. There was a motion that the owner of 35014 West be invited to attend the next committee meeting. Was a response to that, or did that happen?
Not St. Joseph's.
No,
St. Joseph.
no,
St. Joseph.
Not St. Joseph.
I have not been.
Through the chair, I believe that was a committee-initiated request, and there was a committee member that was going to invite
Yes.
them.
I think Brian McCaddy was going to contact, correct? Yes.
So he didn't, as far as we know, he didn't respond to that, the owner of 350.
I can.
In the minutes, it says that the committee chair, Councillor Brian McCaddy, and Councillor-elect Aidan Johnson and M. Atkins, the director of planning, were directed to meet with the owner. So I'm assuming maybe Aidan. Did you have anything, Stephen? But I'm sure, Steve, on this?
There's been ongoing discussions, to you, Madam Chairman. There have been ongoing discussions with the owner, and essentially right now the owner is agreeing not to proceed and move forward on a demolition permit until such time as those discussions reach their conclusion. And I know that both former Councillor McCaddy and Councillor Johnson have been in fairly regular contact with the owner, but because the owner is right now in terms of trying to figure out exactly where this is going to go, there's a meeting at this point in time has not been set up.
So, Madam Chair, I would suggest when Councillor Aidan Johnson comes in, that maybe that would be a question to ask him at that time.
And then maybe that property should be added to our,
I agree.
to our red list.
Yeah. And that would be the person that takes it.
Do we want to wait until we get to the list and then we'll...
Sure. Whenever.
Because I accepted the report on it.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the minutes? Michael, seconded by Kathy. All in favor? Okay. Item 4 is our delegation requests. There are no delegations today. Item 5 is consent items. Then, item 6 is our delegations. There are no delegations. Item 7 is our presentations. We have a presentation. Item 7 is our presentations. Item 7.1 is the Council Director's review of heritage designation and heritage permit process. Alyssa, would you like to present?
So through the chair to the committee, in September of this year, Council passed a recommendation for staff to be directed to review our existing heritage designation and heritage permit processes as per terms of reference that were developed and reviewed through Council. Today, staff will just be walking through what that review will entail, and we'll have some preliminary questions for the committee to ponder, and we'll be sending out a questionnaire in terms of feedback from the committee related to those questions. And then following that, I'll just, for sort of a refresher and application for some of our new members, go through how we've gotten to this point now in terms of what our existing processes are for both of those. So as I said, in terms of the purpose, so I'll be going over what the actual direction was, going over some of the planning staff's work program, key tasks, and milestones to give you an idea of what the timing will be like. And as I said, identify some key questions in terms of what we will be looking for feedback and input from this committee, and then provide some background and answer any questions you might have related to our existing processes. So in September of this year, Council directed staff to undertake 2 reviews, as I said, heritage permits and our heritage designation process, and to come back with recommendations as required to our existing processes in terms of addressing any inconsistencies, issues, gaps, or opportunities for improvement to those processes. In terms of the scope of the review for our heritage permit process, it would involve an overview of the background of essentially how we got here, what our existing heritage permit process is, in addition to the delegated authority process for heritage permits for alterations, an assessment of how that's currently working, how many permits we're processing, what gaps or issues might currently exist within our process, and whether or not there are any opportunities for improvement. A summary and comparison of this process to the other best practices with municipalities across Ontario, including what their delegated approval bylaws look like, consultation with Heritage Committee as well as the other subcommittees of Heritage Committee and other relevant stakeholders, and then to come back with recommendations on how to improve or potentially amend our existing process. Similar for heritage designation, we will be going through the background of how we got to this point, how we got our formal process adopted through council in terms of receiving requests to designate, an overview of some recent council direction in properties outside of that process, which is sort of outside of our typical designation process in terms of requests, a review and assessment, an assessment and evaluation of this process, identifying any concerns within it, and a summary comparison to other practices across Ontario, consultation with this committee and other subcommittees and stakeholders, and then coming back with final recommendations. And I do have some copies of these overviews if you would like one, or I can email one as well. It was provided as an information item following council though on our agenda in October. In terms of the timeline for this work program, staff definitely recognizes that there's a desire to come back as soon as possible. Council directed staff to come back by the end of the second quarter in 2015. So it is a bit of a tight timeline in terms of undertaking that review. Currently, within the last quarter, we've been looking at what other municipalities are doing, and we'll be consulting with yourselves today and throughout the next month before the next meeting. And then in 2015, we'll be undertaking that analysis and assessment process, reviewing and synthesizing what some of those issues and opportunities are, consulting with you again and relevant stakeholders, and then formulating recommendations for improvement before coming back to council. In terms of preliminary input that we're looking for from yourselves today, and we'll be seeking as well from the Heritage Review Subcommittee and the Cross-Melville Heritage District Advisory Committee, we have a few questions that we'd like you to ponder. As I said, I will be sending out a questionnaire with these so they're able to provide more fulsome responses to staff, and there will also be an opportunity if you'd like to have one-on-one interviews to further discuss some of these questions and items that you might want to bring up. So first we're looking...
Excuse me. Through Chair, what's CMHDAC? Cross-Melville. Cross-Melville, sorry. Excuse me, thank you.
That's okay. So first, what do you consider to be the main objectives for this review? 2, what questions would you like the reviews of both processes to consider? 3, who are the relevant stakeholders that you think staff should be engaging through this process? 4, with respect to our existing processes, what gaps would you like to see addressed? 5, what improvement ideas would you recommend be considered as a part of this process? 6, which other Ontario municipalities with processes already in place would you like to know more about and see discussed as a part of this? 7, if there are any other additional comments or considerations you might have, to please provide those. And then 8, how should this Heritage Committee and the other subcommittees be updated throughout this process? So those are just left for you to ponder now, and then as I said, we will send out that questionnaire and look for more fulsome answers in the future. And then just to give a refresher on how we got to where we are now. I'm just going to go through an overview of our existing heritage conservation program. There is a lot of detail in the slides. I'll be doing a cursory review. If you do have any questions, feel free to stop me at any point, but I can also provide you with some additional information and the actual staff reports and bylaws that relate to these processes should you have additional questions or information. So I'll just quickly go over Heritage Conservation Ontario, designation of individual properties, designation of districts, managing change through heritage permits, our delegated approval authority under the Act, and the role of heritage committees. So municipalities are tasked with ensuring that we conserve significant cultural heritage resources, and our main tool to do this is the Act. It allows us to formally protect properties through either designation or through the negotiation of heritage conservation easement agreements. It also enables municipalities to manage change to those protected properties through heritage permits. And finally, in terms of the other side, so not just the stick side, but the carrot side, it also allows us to provide assistance in terms of grant and loan programs to facilitate this type of conservation. Heritage designation allows for the recognition of the importance of a property within a community. It protects its heritage value through identifying heritage attributes in designation bylaws or easement agreements. It encourages conservation and stewardship and promotes knowledge and understanding of communities' history and development. I do have handouts that are a little more clear here in terms of the actual process, but this is just an excerpt from the Ontario Heritage Toolkit, which outlines what the formal designation process is in the Act and its requirements. The main things to point out here is the fact that there is a requirement to serve notice on the owner and in the paper as well, and that there's a formal appeal period for any objections, which is 30 days. Any appeals go to the Conservation Review Board for consideration, and the result of that hearing gets referred back to Council for their final decision in the matter. The City of Hamilton also has an approved heritage designation process for addressing requests to designate. This was developed in 2008, and I have the staff report reference there. If you would like a copy of that, I'd be happy to email it or print it and send it to you. And it involved the formal adoption of additional criteria for evaluating heritage value or interest as it relates to designation. And this is in line with Ontario Regulation 906, which is what the Act outlines in terms of identifying value, and builds upon that in terms of how we evaluate properties. It also allows for us to prioritize those requests to designate based on a number of factors, which include risk of demolition or removal, funding eligibility, what the actual value of the property is. Some properties may be more significant and pushed to the front. Current level property maintenance, ownership, whether it's city-owned or not, and what the existing work program would allow and what staff resources allow as well. And I won't go into too much detail here, but we do have a formal process which is outlined in a flow chart also included in this presentation. And it involves staff preparing a preliminary screening when we receive a request. And that report, if it is found to be of potential value worthy of looking at for designation, will go forward to Planning Committee and Council for their consideration and is added to our work program. And following that, when that comes up in our work program, we complete a cultural heritage assessment for their property. And that's then reviewed by Municipal Heritage Committee before going forward to Planning Committee and Council for their consideration. And there's a copy of the flow chart there, and I also have copies here if people would like to take one away with them today. In terms of districts, Hamilton currently has 7 heritage conservation districts throughout all of the former municipalities, primarily though in Hamilton. And since each of the districts were designated, the Act has since been amended, and there's now a formal framework for how to consult with the public through the designation process, including requirements to formally adopt district plans. However, it should be noted that our existing 7 districts do not have formally adopted district plans. In addition, Hamilton does not currently have a formal process for addressing requests to designate heritage conservation districts. Moving on to how we manage change to these protected heritage properties. As I mentioned, heritage permits enabled through the Ontario Heritage Act is what allows municipalities to formally manage this change. It essentially ensures that we're not adversely impacting the identified heritage value and heritage attributes that we've protected through their designation or through easement. And typically, heritage permits are required wherever there's any potential displacement or disruption effects to those heritage attributes. And as a general rule, alterations to heritage properties should repair rather than replace original features and should not permanently damage heritage materials or construction measures. Included here is another excerpt from the Ontario Heritage Toolkit, which outlines the formal process for heritage permits for alteration of a property under Part 4, so individually designated properties. And I have copies here as well for you to take away, they're clear. Just wanted to show you that in terms of this formal process and how it's regulated through the Act, once a application is received and notice of receipt is provided to an owner, that there is a requirement to process applications within 90 days. And if a decision has not been made either by council or by delegated authority in that 90 days, then it is deemed consented to. Similarly, in terms of heritage permits, this is for demolition or removal of a structure under Part 4. This is something that can't be delegated, and similar process in terms of the 90-day clock when we receive an application, and all of these permits have to go through council. And just briefly in terms of delegated approval authority under the Act, so as I said, council must consent or consent with conditions or refuse an application within 90 days, otherwise it's deemed consented without as it's submitted. The Act does provide for the power to consent to a heritage permit to be delegated to an employee or official of municipality. In our case, we have delegation to the Director of Planning. And as I mentioned, this delegated approval authority does not extend to either the consent of a demolition or removal of an individual property that's designated, the consent of an erection of a new structure in any heritage district, or the ability to refuse an application under either part of the Act. And one important note to make is that there is no definition of demolition in the Ontario Heritage Act. However, the Act does define alteration or alter. And that's part of where I think some of the push came from in terms of looking at our heritage permit process, in terms of the concerns, partial demolition versus alteration, and how that's defined and how that can be more clearly defined in our process moving forward.
On that point, so that did come up here, and with James Street Baptist and 90% demolition and alteration. This has come up in other parts of the province. Surely, has there been an attempt to look at what is an alteration, what is a demolition under the Ontario Heritage Act?
That's something that I'm not aware of in terms of if there's been an official request for the province to review that as a part of their amendment process. So that would be part of our reviews to look at whether or not other municipalities have identified this issue and made formal requests to the province to look at it. And then in terms of our current heritage permit process, our framework was developed in 2005 and it was through consultation with Heritage Committee. On average, we currently process about 70 heritage permits a year. The original staff report recommending delegated approval for alterations spoke to the fact that delegated approval authority can help reduce the overall approval time for processing heritage permits, and as well as the time spent by staff in terms of preparing reports to council. And the original report proposed providing delegated approval authority for all alteration permits. However, following consultation with Heritage Committee, the recommendation was revised, and that delegated authority did not apply, nor did it extend to any alteration heritage permits where there was no agreement between staff and either the Heritage Committee, Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee, or any district advisory committees, and in this case, the only one that's currently exists is Cross Melville. And then finally, in terms of a reminder of the role of Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee, the mandated Heritage Committee was last revised and established in 2006, and essentially they are tasked with advising and assisting staff and council on all matters related to the Act, especially designation of properties, review of heritage permit applications, and other conservation measures, and to assist staff and advise council in the preparation, evaluation, and maintenance of the list of properties and areas that are worthy of conservation. And there are other aspects, but I thought I'd just highlight those. In terms of our Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee, their official mandate speaks to advising the full Municipal Heritage Committee, staff, and the Director of Planning on the consideration of all heritage permit applications to alter property, either individual properties or within districts. And finally, the Cross Melville Heritage District Advisory Committee mandate is to act as a sounding board for the district's residents, to preview and comment on the acceptability of any proposed changes within the district, and that they report through the Hamilton Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee.
Melissa, can you give the background as to why this particular district is the only one of the 7 districts in the city that has an advisory committee?
So a lot of this discussion does predate me, so I'll give you the overview as I have interpreted through my review so far. Staff recommended that some of the advisory committees that existed prior to formal establishment of the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee be disbanded, and that those duties made more sense and in terms of efficiency to be amalgamated into one committee. And there was a staff report, which I do have a few copies of, I can provide you with, that speaks to why that was the staff recommendation. And there was also a request recently for Mill Street to have Heritage Advisory Committee established or re-established, which was not approved by council at the time. However, Cross Melville was recently reinstated, so it had been disbanded, and I believe in 2011 there was a council motion from the ward councillor to re-establish that committee based on their considerable interest in establishment. So that is, in a nutshell, what our existing process is, to give you a refresher on that. As I said, those preliminary questions that staff will be looking for your feedback on will be sent out to you shortly, as well as the other advisory committees, so Heritage Permit Review and Cross Melville, because you are the people that are working with these processes day in, day out. We want to get your feedback and hear what your existing concerns are, or what opportunities you think there are, and how we can improve both the processes. And as I said, there would be an opportunity as well, if you'd like to have a more detailed discussion, staff would be happy to sit and chat with you one-on-one as well to further discuss it. Are there any questions at this time?
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. May I have a motion to receive the presentation? Michael, seconded by Stan. All in favor? We should welcome Councillor Johnson to our meeting today.
Thank you very much.
I think at the end of the meeting, we're going to do a little round the table introduction.
A mysterious development popped up on Martin Street over a 2-day period that was on the front page of the Spectator today, so please forgive my lateness. We're trying to figure out who's behind the mysterious pop-up development on the road. And who owns the property? Who to blame? Not Heritage Building.
Moving on to item 8 is 8.1 is Century Manor at 100 West 5th. In your package for additional items, there is some correspondence.
Sure. So apologies in terms of this not being prepared in time for when the agenda package was sent out. But staff did follow up based on the committee's recommendation from last month to look into the actual designation status as it relates to the fact that it's provincially owned. And you'll see a detailed overview in the memo, but essentially when the property was designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act, amendments had not yet been made to the Act that would preclude the ability to do that. So the designation still stands on title. However, because it's currently provincially owned, they're not required to uphold the provisions of the Act. But were the property to be sold to either a private body or another public body that isn't provincial, then the designation would still stand, and any future owner would be required to adhere to those provisions. And then in terms of the additional request to correspond with Infrastructure Ontario to notify staff, there is just an overview on the second page identifying that it's already a requirement as a part of the disposition surplus protocol for the province, for them to circulate to the city.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Should we wait to discuss what happened at that meeting about Century Manor until the building is up, or you want to do that?
Oh, we can talk about it.
It's just a question for Alyssa. The province isn't governed by its own Ontario Heritage Act with respect to property it owns.
To clarify, it's designated under Part 4 municipally. There is provincial designation. It is not currently provincially designated.
Okay.
And in terms of jurisdiction, it isn't.
Okay. So are they required to notify a prospective purchaser that it is municipally designated?
It is untitled, so
It
it
is
would be as a part of the
It was a fairly well-attended meeting at the Spectator. Paul was there, Dan was there, Pat Summers was there, Robin Key was there, and quite a few other individuals. Steve Grokowski from Core Urban was there. I think I mentioned Judy Marsalis. There was quite a bit of discussion. There was quite a few options. Diane Dixon, who's the lady? No, that lady from the YWCA.
Oh, Denise
Story was there, and there was many suggestions about what it could be used for if Infrastructure Ontario actually decides to release it. One was to be a woman's shelter, another one was to be a museum, another one put forward by Steve Kurokowski was to be a student residence for Mohawk College. I put forward upscale condos. So it was quite it was a well-attended and enthusiastic meeting, and from that, 10 people were selected to be part of the delegation, which is going to put a little bit of pressure on the provincial government to make up some kind of a decision and direct Infrastructure Ontario to do something with it. From what I hear, it was on 30 acres. It was 85 acres altogether, and then the hospital was built. And now it's 30 acres that the Century Manor sits on. When I was talking to Steve Kurokowski after the meeting, he said that he would not want the entire 30 acres. He would probably take 5 of it. But the problem is, other than, you'll remember this too, Columbia College actually put forward a suggestion that they wanted to buy it. And they were going to turn it into student residence too. And Infrastructure Ontario would not let them in, so that deal was fallen by the wayside. They're now developing another property. And I just found out from talking to Harry Stinson from Stinson Developments that Harry Stinson is actually interested in that. He would love to buy it and turn it into a boutique hotel to be called the Asylum.
Harry.
You might want to speak to you at the meeting too. You had a bit to say about it.
No, I think you covered it well. I think the big point is that we need to find out what Infrastructure Ontario's plan is for that land. That's valuable land up there. And we need to know what they want to do and how Century Manor will fit into that.
And I think the task force is going to be putting pressure on Infrastructure Ontario, so we'll be getting updates, I'm sure, from them. May I have a motion to receive?
I have a question. What the Liberal minister, or Hamilton, what's his position on this? To what extent has he been involved in the discussions?
Not much.
He's using a lot of soap on his hands.
So, I guess it's a task force issue as to how they access Ontario government, but it would seem to me that would be an important stop.
Apparently the main reason that people are not being allowed in to view it, particularly Core Urban, who said he really would love to come and see what could be done and actually put together a proposal to buy it, is because of the mold, excessive mold, and the asbestos. And 2 people, Columbia and Core Urban, have both offered to sign a waiver saying that they will not hold accountable Infrastructure Ontario for any injuries or things that happen because of mold, and they still refuse to get it.
So how do you sell something where you can't gain access to see what you're buying?
You can't.
It's not for sale.
Yeah, that's probably it in a nutshell. At this present moment in time, it's not for sale.
It's, right now, the prime case of demolition by neglect.
May I have a motion to receive 8.1? Kathy, seconded by Ron. All in favor? Item 9.
I want to bring up something, I don't know if this is the right spot, so you can tell me, in connection with the coffee building. Will this be a discussion item? Could we turn in here, or is there another spot?
We could do it as new business.
New business?
Yes, let's try this. Okay.
New business?
We'll add it as a general item. So we'll
Okay.
add it as a-
Yeah, great, thank you.
So it'll be 11.5. So item 9 is our motions, we have none. Item 10 is notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion? Seeing none, we move on to item 11 is our general information and business. So just for our new councilors, item 11, what we have is a list of endangered, there's various properties, endangered properties, we classify them as, and they're actually color-coded in the degree of whether it's just a project, a property we're watching, if there's urgency that, demolition by neglect and they need to be lifted and monitored. So we have these properties that we review at every meeting, just to get a quick little update. A lot of times there is no new information, but so it keeps it on our radar. There's a couple of properties that Councillor McCaddy had, so they would be of interest to you if that's something that you want to watch. And there's a couple of other properties that we just need to confirm. Sure.
Yeah, and then one of the purposes of it to the new councillors is it's not just about buildings that we're concerned about, it's also about buildings that we're very pleased that are moving forward. So when we come into the meeting here, it's not just bad news, it's also good news.
So 11.1A is our endangered building list in red. So those are properties that have immediate threat to the heritage resource. So the first one is the Tivoli. Councillor McCaddy is watching that. We'll need a new representative for.
Sure.
Councillor Johnson, Will?
We can work together. Is it kosher to work together?
You can if you'd like.
Sure. Well, shall we work together? And you'll fill me in on like exactly what it means and I'm taking shepherd this, right?
Yep, if there's any issues, you may need to make contact with the property
Sure.
owner or just it's a walk by, just if you hear any news, it's just
Madam Chair, through you to staff, are we aware that I just received notification of a complete application that's coming on this property? Is that correct?
Through Madam Chairman, that is correct. A development application has been submitted for the Tivoli site. It's a rezoning application. It's to 22 stories? 22-story, retaining the theater, and it'll be a 22-story mixed-use building. The ground first 2 floors are commercial, and the top 20 stories would be residential. The application just went into circulation, and all the necessary studies, reports, and it will to the policy committee, right? Yeah. So the heritage impact study will be going to the policy committee for their advice and input into it.
And the Chair, Mr. Robichaud, would you? I would ask Mr. Robichaud to send me whatever info, just
Yes, sir.
whatever, just whether in summary form, whatever documents.
Yes.
If,
No,
if I'm
Madam
now,
Chairman,
if
we
I'm
will-
now in charge of watching the building.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it just started. We just went into circulation the last 48 hours or a couple of days ago. So
Oh, great.
just, you may, if you don't, yeah. So we will follow.
Yeah, and I'm sure in whatever time frame is appropriate.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank
We
you.
will. Yes.
Thank you. And just let me know if you need help from me. I don't want to get in your way. Just tell me whatever you need help.
Will do.
Thanks.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to just, so we have on record that Councillor Johnson and Will will be watching the property. Michael, seconded by Stan. All in favor?
Andrew John.
The next item is Bookhouse. Hello? Andrew Sloss House?
Sorry.
What?
Oh, no need there either.
Century Manor we've discussed. Beach Canal Lighthouse, Kathy?
No meetings recently, no.
Charlton Hall? Will? Aubrey Zimmerman House? Wolf is not here, but.
I can speak to it. Thank you, Madam Chair. The Aubrey Zimmerman House has been successfully purchased by a young couple, and they are in the process of cleaning it out, renovating it, and I'm absolutely thrilled They're from Greensville, they're from the area, they do have some experience in the heritage buildings. And we all know that heritage homes last much longer when someone's living in them and caring for them, and in this case, loving them. But they're a lovely young family and very committed to the property. So I'm not sure whether we need a motion to, we want to keep it on the list, do we want to take it off the list?
Move to the good news.
Move it to the good news? Yeah.
And
I'll move that motion if it's
Moved by Councilor Partridge and seconded by Ron. All in favor? Carried. Michael?
Yeah, the couple you're talking about have come to the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee twice now.
Yes.
The first time they came with a rather extensive application about some of the things they wanted to do. We were very, very pleased, and they were also very well prepared, and we're always pleased when that happens.
Yes.
They came just this week on Tuesday because the windows that they were going to fully restore are irreparable. So they've now come for a new application to put some new wood windows in, which did go through. And we're very pleased to work with them.
Oh, thank you.
We're looking very forward to see what happens.
I appreciate that update. Thank you.
1 John Street, Kathy?
I heard at a Stony Creek Historical meeting last night that not only is the house being painted, that the roof is being repaired. And I guess I have some concerns about that. Is the repair in an effort to sell? Is it in keeping with the existing? I mean, I know it's only on the register. We really don't have any authority, but is there something staff can do to connect with the owner to make sure that the repairs aren't maybe more damaging or, impeding a potential designation?
Through the chair, Kathy, do you know, is it still the same owner
Yes.
that's undertaking the work?
I suspect that the will has come out of probate, which is why the property's being cleaned up. There's a dumpster at the back. The building's been painted in an effort to make it look better, but as long as it looks better and it is safer or, can endure.
Through the chair, yeah, I know that the roof was in rough shape and there was some tarping, I think, to try to maintain some of that. As you're saying, yes, there's no formal process to require any conditions on the part of those alterations, but staff can send a letter or touch base with the owner. They'll ask contact information after the owner and see if they have any questions for assistance with that process.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Our next item is 18 to 22 and 24 to 28 on the street. Paul?
So I believe at council yesterday, council agreed to extend the grants to end of 2015.
Yes.
And that's good. However, it was a piece in CBC Hamilton this week where they interviewed David Blanchard, and I think the best way to describe his attitude is defiant. He says, I don't care if it's been extended, it's not enough money, $1 million is not enough, it might take $2 million. He hasn't, I don't think he knows how much it would take, but that's what he's saying. And Conservation Review Board, I think it's been pushed back again till spring, is that right?
Through the chair, I believe it's March 10th. That information is on the Conservation Board website.
Just on that point, maybe I've asked you this before, regardless of what the Conservation Review Board finds, the final decision is still up to council whether this property is designated.
If
It's just advice.
Yeah, so it's,
So through the chair, following the Conservation Review Board's decision, a report will go to council summarizing that and staff making a recommendation in addition to that before council makes a decision.
but in the meantime, we have another situation of demolition by neglect, another winter seeping into that unheated
And
building.
there's no heat. No.
Last part of that building, by the way, has been barricaded recently. And, noticed, dangerous by demolition. Then been there before. Most East Street property.
1 St. James, please. Will?
No news, I don't know whether Elise has anything for us. Is it going to conservation review or anything?
There is, I believe, a pre-hearing scheduled. That information is on the Conservation Board, so I don't have the date with me.
These things go to conservation review. Do you get involved in them?
Primarily through the chair, primarily it's our legal department staff, obviously do support and provide support through that process, recognizing it's coming out of our department, which is the initial recommendation. But primarily the legal through that process.
The next one is All Saints Church. There's no update on that. Hermitage. Well,
Councillor Ferguson was essentially overseeing that. And it's my recollection that, not our last meeting, but the one previous to it, he gave a report regarding the fundraising efforts that have been very successful. And I don't know whether we actually made a motion that it be moved from the red list to another list. So it's a good news story, as I thought, and that isn't reflected here. So.
I second your motion.
I'll take that file, like,
That's a big, we got a lot of file there.
it's,
I thought I was going to take that.
Yeah,
I didn't do that.
that's nice.
oh, Ferguson, okay, I thought it was Hank had it.
You don't have to leave me every time.
No, but I'm aware of the, the contract is coming in.
so there's nothing saying that you can't.
I'm not sure if there was ever a motion made or that it was taken from this list and put on the news.
There is now.
Sorry.
Maybe.
Through the chair,
Alyssa.
through the chair, just to clarify, I think the discussion at the last meeting was to not yet move it because staff have not received an application yet. So the former heritage permit was tabled at council. Yes, there is a permit in the works, but staff have yet to receive a permit for that work, just to clarify, because that was the previous one.
So it stays here until the process is finished.
And then just to get it on record, Stan, for you to review it, may I have a motion for Stan? Kathy, seconded by Michael, all in favor? Okay.
If we have number 10, be the Mount St. Joseph.
Oh, yes.
And could somebody make a motion that it be my building, and then I can tell you what I'm going to get. Any building that we have, I'm not going to tell you.
Paul, put forward the motion.
Yeah.
Who would like to second that motion for, to be added to the list, Stan? And to have Michael as the property.
Would be number 10. Oh, my mistake.
Would you like to give your?
I've taken away.
This is Mount St. Joseph, it's the orphanage from the last meeting.
So this would now be number
14.
Do you want to give an update, Michael?
In discussion regarding the Connolly building, we segued over to talk about Mount St. Joseph because MSA, the architectural firm, are going to be possibly working with the potential buyers of the building, the 3 former residents of the building. And apparently Glenn Norton from the city here is well aware of this, and apparently it's moving slowly at this point, but it is moving. So, because apparently what Vrancor are very interested in is not so much whether that building stays or not, but is having the rest of that lot empty so they can build the towers that they want to build. And so there actually is the possibility that they could sell, not lease, but sell that property to these 3 people. And it's not just in the dream stage, it actually potentially, although that's kind of an awkward phrase, it could happen.
Councillor Johnson, did you have an update on the property?
I mean, everything that was just said is true, to the best of my knowledge. And then nothing further to add, that's all true.
Do we have a sense of how patient Director Branch is on this?
Not.
Not patient. So time isn't it?
Time is of the essence of
And
the
you're
issue
saying it's
for
moving slowly. I mean, at one time he was saying, I'll give it, what, 2 weeks, 2 months?
It'll be a little bit more than that, but I mean, if I would say April, May, if there's been no further movement forward, it doesn't bode well for the future that way.
So this one should certainly stay on black. Or, I mean, what?
Yeah.
Red.
Moving on, you can have our buildings and landscapes in yellow. So these are properties that are undergoing some sort of change, but it's not an immediate threat. Delta High School, Walter's not here. James Street Baptist Church.
The early discussion with Drew Hauser from MSA was in regarding to this project, which is moving forward quite well. I think the biggest concern for most of the people in this room is the window. From what I understand, there have been people approached in regards to doing work on the window, and from what I also understand, our Heritage Mills are one of the people that are going to be considered to do the restoration of this window. The plan is to completely restore it and to have it as it was before it unfortunately fell over during the 100-mile-an-hour winds.
Centenary Church, well, Pearson Home. From our last meeting, Wolf was our contact, just getting a motion. Wolf is the next. So, Kathy, second. All in favor? Under our Heritage Properties Update Green, so these are stable properties. We have the Royal Connaught. Michael?
Moving forward quite well. There was apparently plans coming forward for the second half.
Toronto Hall?
Still for sale for $3.2 million. Anybody here want to buy it?
Thomas Building? 4652 James? Desjardins Canal? Stan?
Nothing new to report.
St. Mark's? Walter's not here. Lockmar? Michael?
Not a lot to report. I haven't seen a lot of work going on, and I haven't heard anything about the request for purchase or for use from the gentleman who's already developed Sherman Street art complex. I haven't heard anything.
Our next property is Westdale Theatre. This was another property of Council
Good one for this one.
And I have some stuff to report. So I had a meeting with Jeremy Freeberger of Cobalt Connects about different ways that Westdale Theatre might be saved and different kinds of creative public-private partnerships that might be pursued in terms of finding new ways of using that building. Maybe approaching McMaster University about could they use it as a lecture hall. A very sort of open conversation about different things we could do. As many in the room will know, Cobalt Connects is a very innovative not-for-profit that figures out creative ways of doing culture management and efficient culture management and public-private partnerships around culture management. So there's interest. Cobalt Connects is very interested in that property and doing something creative there. So that was a happy meeting. I'm looking forward to following up with that conversation. On Tuesday night, I met with the staff of the Westdale Theatre and just learned from them about what's going on in the theatre. We had, I don't want to share sort of private business information about the theatre, but we just had a good conversation about what's going on with the theatre and the current owners. And I've been endeavoring to get in touch with the owners. So all that is boiling, or at least simmering, and I'll report back when I have something further.
Great.
So I'd like to move that Aiden be the rep for the thing.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, do I have a second? Ron? All in favor? Stan, did you have?
Yeah, through the chair, Councillor Johnson. You mentioned the fact that there's interest in turning into a lecture hall.
That's an idea. McMaster has not been approached, but I mean, given that McMaster is blocks away from the theater, and given that it's a beautiful big hall, to me, it would be perfectly good to use that as a lecture hall.
But would it still be used as a theater as well?
Why not? Why not have a multi-purpose space? That may be the way to save it.
That's where they do it Ryerson now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just on that, to my mind, the real key there is if you're able to talk to the owners. Because we don't know where they stand on this. It's a really curious way of operating the theater. And we need to know whether do they want to sell it? Do they care about it? Would they spend $50,000?
There's no doubt that they care about it.
Why do you say that?
Because the Westdale Cinema is not a big money maker, and they've been operating it for a long time. And when I say not a big money maker, it's not clear that it's making any money at all, and yet it's been operating for a good long while. So that to me doesn't indicate bad faith, right?
Except that they haven't invested any money
That's
in
true
the
also.
theater, so that's
Yeah.
very.
And everything you say is correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a comment made that they haven't invested anything in the theater. No, not in terms of the technology or,
Well, the sign hasn't lit for,
well, geez, people get excited about taking old signs down, so,
right,
okay.
yeah, no, I don't
Well,
want to
the interior of that theater has been painted in the last couple of years. Repairs to the roof and ceiling have been made. So to say that it's being neglected isn't really a fair statement.
Been in the men's washer?
I have,
What are you doing there?
I go to the theater.
At least one of the urinals is
Exactly. One has been
At
sealed
least
over for
one
a
is
decade.
clearly ready.
Okay, too much information.
Just brought up.
Way too
It was
much.
brought up, the urinals are heritage urinals. Thank you, so I didn't bring it up.
So regarding the Westdale Theater, my wife and I were recently, for our 29th wedding anniversary, down in Savannah. We stayed in slave quarters in an old mansion. And we found out that what's called the Savannah Historical Society, that they're kind of responsible for a lot of the revitalization of the entire city. And then, when we're down there, we find out that there's this other organization, and this is in relation to getting McMaster involved, that have done incredible adaptive reuse of some of the gorgeous buildings. The Armories is now part of a gallery in the campus and a rec hall for students. They own the coffee shop that's in this gorgeous building, a warehouse they've refurbished. They own other galleries. They own, I think, a clothing store. And they are moving, and like I don't know, you know what SCAD is, right? The Savannah College of Art and Design. They have offices in New York and in Hong Kong. They are readapting and reusing all of these buildings and maintaining as much of the heritage fabric as possible. If we could get McMaster to start doing that with places like Westdale, that could be a very good thing.
I agree.
Stinson School, Michael?
To talk to the project manager, Gary Stinson. The project manager has some interesting stories, and maybe councilors want to hear about this. There's been some water main problems. I'm sure the city's aware of it. Significant water main problems. There was actually an accident with the road work they're doing in Allison behind Stinson School. The water main, or the pipes were broken, and they filled up with mud, and that mud, rather thick, went into all of the toilets and sinks and bathtubs over at Stinson School. They've had to take all the pipes out and replace all the filters, and the project property manager is very upset about this. He's not blaming the city, accidents happen, but the brown water is an ongoing thing. The mud is so thick coming through the taps that it's stopping the water. So just so the three councillors on the committee here know that. But other than that, the building's doing fine. He told me a wonderful story about the jumping tarantula that nobody that lives in the building would take responsibility for having as a pet, but they've been finding buckets of dead crickets in the garbage, so somebody's got it. So it actually went to attack him. It's one of those jumping ones that actually jumps at a 45-degree angle. So Wesley had to attack it as it tried to attack him. Just a little aside. Tarantulas in the Stinson building.
Are there still units for sale?
Yes.
Now we know why it's not ready.
Yeah. No, it's moving well. It's moving well.
Dr. Willen?
Moving well. I don't have a lot to report on it. Last time, for the two councillors that didn't know, there's actually been an artist that trained under the original artist that did the sculptures, mentored and trained, and that person is going to be doing the restoration of the sculptures. I think that's fantastic. They've been hired.
The next property is Jimmy Thompson Pool. Walter said he was going to take that property. Can we just have a motion just to formalize that? So Kathy, seconded by Stan. All in favor?
And last count, by the way, it's not going anywhere. Last count, it's not going anywhere.
Jim Johnson.
Part of the senior center now.
It's a great building.
The next item is Mohawk Trail School. We got very good news a couple of meetings ago, just as to how the school board is going to be progressing with that and making it a public use space. So there's no other update on that one. Item D is our heritage properties update in black. So these are ones that we just have no control over at the moment. So Akmar Gatehouse, right?
As I reported last time, there's probably going to be an application before to demolish it in April or May. That's if it makes it that far.
What happens to these for the clock?
I think it was stated.
Once it's torn down.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, we get a picture plaque that can go there, with the owner's permission, of course, because it's his property.
Current one's an Ontario plaque, right?
I'm sorry?
Current one is an Ontario
I do
plaque.
believe so, yeah, so we could get one from the joint plaque in here.
Item 11.2 is some correspondence from Doors Open Ontario for the 2015 registration. Is there any discussion in regards to that item?
Anything with registration and having- Anything else? Somebody's taking on Doors Open and everything.
Through the chair, my understanding is that typically that was coordinated through culture. I think recently there's been a bit more of a divide and there's more of a volunteer association that coordinates that and culture assists. But that's not typically something that's been coordinated through planning.
It says registration due by such and such a date.
It has been forwarded to culture for information as well.
So they're probably paying? Is that what you're saying?
As I said, through the chair, previously culture has been coordinating, but my understanding is more recently it's been a volunteer organization that's supported by culture that coordinates it.
Could we request from staff that we be informed about who we should communicate with regarding Doors Open? Because I think we would have a lot of valuable input. We just don't know who to contact.
May I have a motion to receive item 11.2? Michael, seconded by Paul, all in favor? Item 11.3 is a request to designate 183, 187, 189, and 195 Houston Street South and 39 Charlton Avenue East under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. So this is in your additional information package, Alyssa?
I'm just looking at it.
Through the chairs, so staff just wanted to copy the committee on this for information. Our standard practice typically isn't that the committee is circulated these notices of receipt, but in this case, the requester has indicated that they believe that there may be an intention to demolish. Staff have followed up and looked, confirmed that there are no existing planning applications to that effect in terms of formal consultation or rezoning. And building, and check with building, there's no existing applications to demolish at this time. But I just wanted to forward that to the committee in case it wanted to be referred to returning receipts to make any sort of investigations and look at registering it in the interim. But in terms of our process and the designation process, staff wouldn't be bringing forward that recommendation if that were the recommendation until the preliminary screening is completed and we brought forward the planning committee.
Would anyone like to put forward the motion that it be sent to research, that it be sent to research and inventory first?
I'll vote for it.
All in favor? Okay. Is there any other discussion? May I have a motion to receive item 11.3? Happy, seconded by Will, all in favor? Item 11.4 is our designation status for 21 Stone Church Road West, part of Stone United Church. No. That's on the additional item.
And through the chair, this is just keep the committee in the loop. This is one of those situations where currently this property is only subject to a notice of intention to designate. And there was a desire on the congregation's side to obtain funding through our grant loan programs, but unfortunately because the designation bylaw has never been passed, they're not eligible for those programs. So staff have been working with representatives from the church to move forward with finalizing that designation and provided them with a number of options, and the congregation has essentially decided and voted that they'd like to move forward with publishing a new notice that's in line with the updated Ontario Heritage Act regulations and move forward with designation.
Is there any discussion? Otherwise, may I have a motion to receive? Michael, seconded by Ron, all in favor? Carried. We added 11.5, so Tom, would you like to?
Okay, so as it turns out, this is the perfect time to bring up Copley in light of the Bartonstone United Church. Just a little background, this had, by the way, we used to have a outstanding items section on the agenda. Is that right? We don't have that anymore?
Because your copy's on there. Your copy's registered in there.
Yeah, it was.
Yes, as I'm transitioning back into the clerk's office, it seems that we no longer have the outstanding business list for print any longer. It's brought to agenda review with the chair and staff, and the items will be dealt with in that fashion. We can send it out to committee via email. That seems to be the new practice of the clerk's office.
Rather than include it with the printed agenda?
That is correct. It's from our council meetings to standing committee meetings now to our subcommittee meetings all the way through in person.
So in any case, the Copley building has vanished from the agenda. It used to be on month after month after month. It was the same kind of situation as Bartonstone, where, am I right, Alyssa, that it had a partial designation back 20 years ago, and that never got completed. And so the reason that this had come up was that we had, through the plaquing subcommittee, had wanted to put a plaque on that building because it's designated. But then we found out that, well, really, it's not designated. It's in a designated limbo now. And the Copley building is a beauty. I mean, it's right across the library. It's one of the best downtown. So in any case, there was a meeting with Alyssa and Councillor Farr earlier this fall, where they met with some representatives of Copley to explain the situation, that this is an important building to Hamilton and never really did get properly designated. Alyssa was good enough to give me a report after that. She said that the owners didn't want to proceed with the designation. They weren't comfortable with that. So that's fine. I talked to Councillor Farr this week, and he said the same thing. He said that he said that the representative of Copley said, well, you got nothing to worry about. We love the building, we're downtown, we've got a couple hundred jobs here. Don't worry about it, but we don't want to designate it. And I don't think that we should just let this one ride. Present occupants of that building like it, that's fine, but this is a building that's really had its challenges. They had in New York, it switched to an American owner who had a bankruptcy 5 years ago. A couple of years after that, switched to an owner based in India. They had a bankruptcy. We have, I think about 250 people working in a building that used to have 700 people working in it. So there are concerns there. Things can happen. And so a generation ago, somebody decided this is a building that should be designated, and it didn't quite happen. That final T didn't get crossed. And I think that we should be requesting that council go through and designate this building properly. Councillor Farr said that he would be glad to go back, this time to the owner, not to the owner's representatives, and explain to them the carrot side of things, that this would, like Bartonstone, it would allow them to have funds to fix up that building, keep it looking good. So that would be my thought, but I appreciated hearing from Alyssa on her take on the situation.
Through the chair, so I guess the difference between Bartonstone Church and the Copley situation is the willingness on the behalf of the owners to proceed. In this case, Bartonstone Church wanting to actually update their designation bylaw, or the notice of intention to designate as it makes up the designation bylaw, in order for that eligibility for grant loan programs. For Copley, when staff, management, and the councillor met with the representatives of the owner, they didn't have any desire in terms of those financial incentive programs. So So from a staff perspective, as has been said a number of times when this has been discussed here, essentially right now with that notice of intention to designate, it's as though it were designated from our perspective in terms of managing change. Under the Act, we're still able to require heritage permits for any changes to those heritage attributes. And there's a recognition that potentially pushing on that would be rocking the boat of a situation that has been working. But I do understand from the perspective of wanting to tie up those loose ends. But I would be hard pressed to, I guess, encourage pushing that without further discussion and getting an understanding of where the owners stand with proceeding with passing the designation bylaw.
It's not in danger.
Just, on that point, it's worked so far because there hasn't been an issue come up. It's worked there because they still have 250 people working in the building. But this question had been asked before. If it came, you're saying that's as if it were designated, but I believe that Megan House told us that there possibly could be an issue, that if they wanted to tear it down, that it could be argued, well, you know, the city never went ahead and fully designated this, we would have a weakened case. And so let's say that the business goes down and that they're looking for ways to save on their tax bill, the same way that David Blanchard has done. And so they decide lower taxes, the best way to do that is to knock down the building. I think there are possible concerns here. And I don't, how would designating it rock the boat? What might they do? The owners?
Through the chair, well, I can't speak to the legal arguments that would be made now versus after. We have to consult with legal counsel in terms of some of those implications. I think it's the understanding that technically, in terms of the provisions of the Act, with the notice of intention to designate, we can still manage change to it through heritage permits. And there's not necessarily a need to go against how they're currently feeling to publish that, to finally pass, I guess, the designation bylaw. And change from the status quo that's currently been existing and working, as you said, yes, there haven't been any issues, but it has been that way for over 30 years, 20 years. 78, 79, I think. So recognizing that and existing workloads, it makes sense to leave things how they're going, given that they've been working. But I can't speak to the legal implications of them appealing a new designation bylaw being passed versus appealing the existing notice of intention to designate. That's I think, a very complex issue that would need to be discussed in a different setting.
Okay, one other point. Could you explain for us why they didn't want the designation process to proceed?
Through the chair, I mean, staff spoke to the fact that it's essentially the same as what currently exists, and it's just their feeling and inclination.
No, that's concerning.
There's no rational, from my perspective as a professional heritage planner, there is no difference.
So they felt that this would...
There was no, through the chair, there was no specific position or legal intent that was demonstrated as to why they didn't want the designation bylaw passed.
I have a bunch of questions. One is it on the register, or does it have to be, or does the intention to designate move it forward past the register for protection?
Through the chair, that is a good question. I can confirm that, but my understanding, currently it's on our register. The register contains all designated properties as well as non-designated properties as per the most recent amendments of the Act. So it has been listed on the city's register since it was prepared. So in that case, it's typically listed on the register, but it's not listed on the register as a non-designated property because it's been subject to a notice of intention to designate.
Okay, my next question is it on the part of the downtown inventory?
Through the chair, it was reviewed through that process as well, but no additional recommendations were made because there was an existing heritage status.
My next question is, if there's a change of ownership, does the new owner get notified that there is an intention to designate on that property?
Through through the chair, I can confirm what that process is in terms
Because I
of.
think that would help us in our position where we're at. And then my next question, suggestion would be, why don't we move this onto the building of land and landscapes of interest? Because we're not getting notice on our outstanding list. We do want to keep kind of up on this.
My concern would be that for no reason that they've offered, they don't want this property to taking that final step to designation, and that in itself worries me. I don't really see a downside to it. This is not going to cause them to treat that building any differently than they do now. What it does do is give them access to funds if they want to. So I think that we should encourage council to push ahead and get this job done. It's been since what, 1979?
I can't remember the exact date, but it's
Yeah, yeah. So I would, I'd put a motion. To recommend that council proceed, advise the council proceed with the, completing the designation of the property, which has been outstanding since 1979, is that right?
I have to be starting with that.
Or generation? Generation.
Do we have a seconder for that motion? All in favor? Any opposed? We have two.
Can I, sorry, thank you, Madam Chair. Can I have a reiteration of what the motion is, please?
So, Mr. Wilson, would you like to speak into your motion one more time?
It's not recommended, it's what?
Advise.
Advise that council proceed with the completion of the designation process for property building, which was started in, do you have any way of confirming that right this moment?
I think we could do that, Madam Chair, we can provide the technical dates, you can just leave it blank. We can follow the clerks with, if that's necessary, just for the purpose of the minutes. Just to make sure all the facts are correct.
Councilor Pearson, did you have a comment?
No, I just thought it would be more appropriate that information come back to the committee first before a motion goes to give advice to council. I'm very concerned that, I mean, we don't have the information here at the table. I don't recall the past history and why there's just a partial intent of designating whatever it was. I don't have that, so I think that to be more advised, it'd be better to have whatever information there is come back here first.
I think Alyssa is probably in a position to provide that information for us right now.
In terms of just the date?
Well, 1979, you found that. But no, why this has been in this strange limbo.
Exactly.
My understanding, to the chair, my understanding is that it went through, back then it was a number of readings of the bylaw, and the final reading never took place. I don't know the specific answers as to why that final reading never took place.
That was in 1979. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my concern is that we really need to have the facts in front of us before we make a decision. And right now, we don't have them. You're not clear on the facts. It was before your time. And, you know, I would just really hate to see something come from this committee that is just not going to fly because there isn't enough information. I agree with Councillor Pearson. It would be more prudent to have the reported information, the actual accurate facts come back to this committee to then be first to be voted on.
So on table it?
Well, will you be able to find the facts from 1979, Alyssa?
Through the chair, I can re-review the file. I do recall that a memo, an information update, either in a formal memo or a verbal update, was provided by by my former colleague previously when this was first brought up, so I can confirm what we do have on file and report back.
Okay. Yeah.
Motion withdrawn.
Madam Chair, having said that, just for clarification through you to the clerks, we've already voted on the motion. And so what is the procedure that we need to follow next?
Formal procedure would dictate that you would have to,
Undo the motion.
essentially, yes, you have to vote to reconsider the item, and then vote the item down
Table.
and table it. You could introduce an amendment at that point to table the item, so as an option, is that?
Is not another option that the mover and seconder withdraw the motion, and then everybody voted, agree to that?
I think that that could be a very plausible opportunity, provided the chair and committee are comfortable with that option for procedural reasons.
Just for further investigation.
Alyssa, could you tell me how long do you think it would take you to get that information? Would you be able to have that by the next meeting?
Through the chair, I would need to also confer with legal to make sure in terms of the information, the accuracy of that, and the clerk's department in terms of the previous proceedings back in '79. So I think realistically, the earliest would be February in terms of where we are with vacation, and that would be a more realistic timeline.
Yeah.
I think we could do a verbal update at the very least for the next meeting, and then follow up with a written update, Madam Chairman, to the February committee meeting. I think that would give us enough time. It just takes a bit of time to write reports.
Yeah, I would like to suggest that we do that, understanding that we're really losing 3 weeks in December. So, you know, I think it would be more appropriate to put it off until the February meeting.
So I move we withdraw the motion.
My motion, yeah, I'm fine with that. Withdraw the motion, and do we need anything now in terms of bringing it up again in February?
I would suggest what staff has agreed to, with the information you'd like to come back, if we could have a motion on the books with respect to what you're expecting to come back in February, I would have the committee if they can reference it. So I could be put on the floor.
So the motion is for our request if staff could provide an update.
Right. Absolutely.
I'll second.
Second by Michael, all in favor? Okay.
So through the chair, can you just clarify, I mean, I have my own notes, but just in terms of the exact information that you're looking for in terms of reporting back?
So essentially, we need to understand what happened in 1979, why it didn't make that final step.
And that was, sorry, Madam Chairman, just as a verbal update at the January meeting, following up with a written update at the February meeting.
Right.
We will take that, so we'll provide that.
And are there particular circumstances that caused the final reading not to happen?
Very glad.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
You have a problem?
Any, is there any items? Before we adjourn, I think maybe if we can just,
I'm typically the one that comes with the goofy positive stuff, but I just want you to know that I was in Manhattan 2 weekends ago in the pouring rain shopping, and I just want everyone to know that our tree out here rivals Rockefeller Center.
I also like our poinsettia trees, which are gorgeous.
Yeah, those are nice.
Yeah.
3 of them.
Very festive.
Yeah.
so just looking forward to the, oh, Alyssa, did you?
I'll just, I'll do a final comment. That I can wait till after.
Did you?
Okay, just to the chair, I just want to thank the committee for all of your work this past year. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I look forward to working with our new councillors. And I did bring in some, I didn't bake them myself, but one of our colleagues baked the greatest sugar cookies. And I brought them to the committee, so I hope you enjoy and have a great holiday.
We're actually short.
Thank you.
And if I can just, Madam Chairman, for the committee, this is Madeline's last week with us here at the Planning Committee. So we will thank you very much, Madeline, in those 8 months. And we will have a new Heritage Co-op student starting in January. Plus, we will have a new Heritage planner starting shortly.
Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve. There's reasons why. But yeah, so Alyssa will be getting help. Going forward. So we have a new Heritage planner that will work starting Christmas Eve. Chelsea.
Tired.
Tired? So she'll be
Nice.
joining us, yes, and be jumping right into things into the new year, and then we're having a co-op student. It's not going back. So
Well, a round of applause for Madeline.
It was good to have you here, Madeline. Do you want to say any comments?
It was a great 8 months, and I'm sad to be leaving, but I've gained a lot of valuable experience.
Good. Well, it's very good to have you here. So good luck.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I didn't get to work with you.
Yeah, so we better do those into us quick. So just so you get to know who some of us, you're going to be stuck with us for a couple more months until the committee sort of comes into shape. So my name is Alyssa Denham Robinson. I've been on the committee for 10 years. I was both member, vice chair, and then I've been chair for the last term of council. So I'm an architectural coordinator, project coordinator for an architecture firm in Burlington. And
I'm Kathy Wakeman. I'm the Stony Creek member on the Municipal Heritage Committee. I actually was on this when it was LACAC. I'm in my 10th year. I work at Honeywell, been there 38 years. I have actually not reapplied for this committee. I'm very aware of some young, energetic, passionate blood in Stony Creek that has applied, and I think that's just amazing. And I had a great trip. This was great fun, and I appreciate everybody's assistance. Thank you.
I'm Stan Novak, I'm a Dundas rep. I work for Scotiabank just a block away here, so it's easy for me to get here. And I've been on this committee for 4 years now.
Michael Atkins, I've been on the committee now for 8 years. I've been on the permit review also for 8 years. In the last 4 years, I've been the chair of the permit review. I have loved every minute of working on here, particularly when it gets controversial. It's definitely, it brings about adrenaline. I'm very, very excited about that. One would think that being on a committee would be so exciting when it is. And I look forward to working with the new councillors and the rest of you for a short time next year. And yes, I have reapplied. I'm hoping to be on, get it one more term and before I'm thrown out for good.
And my name is Paul Wilson, and both of our new members know me.
Yes.
A million years ago, I worked under the same roof as Judy at 44 Fridge Street, the Spectator.
Yes.
She was in Mahogany Road, and I was out with the, and as for Aiden, how old are you now? 32? 35. So when he was 16, I was a judge for the Power of the Pen contest, and I had about 20 entries for pieces, and one piece just soared above all the rest, and that was Aiden's, and he's a smart guy, and he'll be great on this committee. I am not reapplying for the committee either. Fresher blood, newer blood, but I've really enjoyed these 4 years, and I'm going to make sure that I'm here for February to find out what happened in 1979.
It's too significant.
It's very important here.
Who's next?
Oh, yeah. Hayden Johnson. I'm the new city councillor for Ward 1. And I signed up for this committee because I think that preserving our beautiful architecture is a sacred obligation. And I want to figure out how we can do that in a sustainable way that makes sense.
Sustainable. My favorite word.
Yeah, sustainable. I'm Councillor Judy Partridge with Ward 15 in Flamborough, and for those of you who don't know, the ward boundaries that I share are all the way up to Guelph, all the way over to Burlington, and the Escarpment, and all the way over to Greensville. So it is very much a rural ward, with the only urban center being Waterdown. A tremendous amount of heritage up there. I work very closely with Wilf Arndt, and have for many, many years, and very much am aware of all of the heritage buildings that we have, and I have a great love for our city and all the heritage buildings we have within the city. Thank you.
Councillor Maria Pearson, Ward 10, Stony Creek. This was going into my 4th term on Heritage Committee, and also was a representative of Stony Creek on LACAC for my 9 years on Stony Creek Council. Certainly have a passion and love for making sure we're doing the right things as far as heritage and moving the city forward.
Going from staff.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tammy. I'm Tammy Kate. I've been with the City of Hamilton now for 5 weeks. I am the Senior Project Manager of the Suburban Team in the Development Planning Division.
Anita Fayback, I am the Manager of Development Planning, Heritage and Design.
Steve Robichaud, Director of Planning and Chief Planner.
I'm Madeline Drew, the outgoing assistant cultural
Alyssa Golden, Cultural Heritage Planner in the Development Planning section. I was first hired on contract to work on the Downtown Built Heritage Inventory and then came on full-time as a
I'm Ron Sinclair. I live in Glanbrook, and I guess representing parts of the city, that's the one I represent. I've been involved with the Municipal Heritage Committee for 4 years, and I have reapplied. Prior to that involvement, I served on the Education Subcommittee of this committee. And one of my pastimes, and I promised at the last meeting, was to bring a number of copies of a recently published book, a look at Hamilton and Wentworth County through picture postcards. It's one of my hobbies, and the Golden Horseshoe Postcard Club has published this. If anyone's interested, you're welcome to look at it. Very much purchase. We have wrapped varieties. We have, okay.
How much?
It's $35. That includes tax. You will not find a better deal. You will never find a better deal in the city of Hamilton unless somebody's into the resale market.
You won't find it cool.
You won't find it at the big bookstores. You will at the small booksellers.
Does Pickwick have it? Pickwick Books?
I believe so,
Watered
yes.
down?
Yes.
Terrific, thank you.
Yeah.
Will?
And I'm Will Rosart. I've been in Lancaster. I've been on the committee for about 4 years. I've had a lifelong interest in history growing up through Jackson Square today. But I'm going to reapply, of course. And I look forward to seeing everybody after the interviews.
I'm Lorraine Kohler. I'm new to the City of Hamilton at the City Clerk's office, and I'm attempting to clerk the meeting of the Heritage. I'm looking very forward to it.
This is your second try.
This is my second one. I was just observing the first one, and I'm looking very forward to learning more about the city that I'm moving back to after 28 years away. So,
Welcome
thank you.
And Christopher Newman, Legislative Coordinator, Office of the City Clerk, transitioning back from being the elections coordinator.
Thank you. Thank you, Christopher.
Well, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and